evening, and welcome to Horror Historian. My name is Amanda, and tonight we'll be discussing the 2005 religious movie, The Skeleton Key. This movie is such a fascinating one because for the life of me, I could not figure out why this came out in 2005.
The director is Ian Softly. He is most known for Curve, The Outcast, and K-Pax. The writer is Aaron Kruger. He is most known for the American versions of The Ring 2, and Ghost in the Shell. He had varying degrees of success on that, and he has also worked on Scream 3, Top Gun Maverick, and the new F1 movie. So pop off. The stars are Kate Hudson, Gina Rowlands, Peter Sarsgaard, Joy Bryant, and John Hurt. Hudson is most known for being the daughter of Goldie Hawn. She was also the star of How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Bride Wars, Glee, and Glass Onion. Rowlands was most known for The Notebook, Persepolis, and a ton of television movies. She passed away last year at the age of 94. Sarsgaard is most known for The Man in the Iron Mask, Shattered Glass, Memory, and Jarhead. Bryant is most known for Spider-Man 2, The Spiderwick Chronicles, For Life, and Welcome Home, Roscoe Jenkins. Hurt is most known for being one of the greatest actors of all time, in my opinion. He is known for Harry Potter, Midnight Express, Alien, The Elephant Man, 1984, and he is near and dear to my heart because he played a character in Thumbelina.
The movie opens to Caroline reading a book to a man who is at the end of his life. She is a care aide working at a home, and it is draining her. These older people are dropped off and just left there, not cared about anybody else in the world. Caroline struggles with a lot of emotions related to that because her father has somewhat recently passed away in a similar facility.
She wasn't there for him in the end, and that weighs on her. Reminding yourself of that explains a lot of her behavior through this movie. After the man passes away and his belongings are going to be thrown away, Caroline leaves her job. She soon finds a new position, offering more money, and it's a live in caregiver in an extremely remote house in rural Louisiana. The job will be isolating, something that her friend Jill is nervous about, but it will just be Caroline and this elderly couple. She is hired officially by Luke, the estate lawyer, to care for Ben. He suffered a severe stroke that left him nearly entirely paralyzed. She'll be working with his wife, Violet Devereaux, and from the beginning, Violet seems hesitant to let someone into her home, which is understandable on the surface. Rewatching it with the knowledge of what happens does change some of these interactions and things being said. Despite her reservations, Violet agrees to let Caroline stay. As long as she follows the rules of the house, they won't have any problems.
During her tour of the house, Caroline is given a skeleton key. Now, if you're like me, you had no idea what a skeleton key was, but apparently it's just the name of the key that gives you access to every room in the house. I have no idea why that is. He just thought to name it, but okay. Violet also has a key just in case of emergency. With a situation like that, it just makes sense to have access to any room at any time.
The only place that is firmly out of bounds for Caroline is the attic. Violet claims that is where they keep their valuables and that she didn't want anyone up there. Fair, whatever. A reminder that Caroline is most certainly a guest. Caroline begins to fall into the routine. Violet teaches her every aspect of Ben's daily care schedule. It involves lifting, feeding, and just being there for him. He is largely unresponsive, other than some noises and eye movement for the most part. Life is extremely isolated out there. Quickly, we all realize that there are no mirrors anywhere in the house. Violet explains that she and Ben are old. They don't really need to remind themselves of that. And obviously, that's nonsense, but she has no choice but to accept it for the time being. Like, sometimes people are just weird. This only intensifies when she is sent to the attic stairway to get some seeds. She notices a door that is hidden away, and she's not able to use her key on that door. She's curious about the door at first, but after one disturbing stormy night, she starts wondering what that door might be hiding.
On that night, Caroline wakes up to the sound of something thumping above her bed. She goes upstairs to check on Ben and discovers that he has dragged himself out of bed, opened the window, and is currently dragging himself across the roof.
Immediately, she's getting out on the roof along with him and trying to get him back in before he can hurt himself. He does end up hurting himself, falling from the roof. I hope that they took him to the hospital, but I kind of have my doubts that they did. Caroline is shocked by what happened, and she is trying to process it. Violet had made a comment that previous night that made Caroline suspect that Ben's unusual mobility had something to do with his nighttime medication. Like I said, the man is largely unable to move during the daytime. He had been able to move with a goal, and that goal was to get out of the house. The only thing Caroline really knows is that he had an accident while in the attic, and that resulted in a stroke. She's suspicious about what is up there, so she discovers the reason her skeleton key didn't work, and it has something was lodged in the door, and with that, she has no issue getting inside.
The room is filled with symbols, iconography, and pieces of jewelry. Although none of it makes sense to Caroline at the time, she does recognize it as something religious in nature. The room doesn't appear to have been used in quite some time, and this is our introduction to hoodoo.
The movie seems to have a basic understanding of hoodoo. It is, in fact, an African American folk religion that had been passed down by enslaved people. Many of them came from Africa, and I think it was a little over half of all slaves were from Central Africa. Given that they didn't have the same culture, it makes sense that their beliefs would emerge and evolve under the intense pressure of the cultural trauma. However, the film leaves out a rather key aspect of hoodoo its integration with Christianity. Which makes sense considering how the religion was forced onto the slaves. And I noticed while looking at videos about the religion to try and learn more about it in prep for this, I noticed that there were often biblical figures that would play a role in their practices. This is entirely left out because it would not have worked well with the narrative that they are trying to create. To Caroline, this is all too strange. She leaves the room and begins to uncover the truth of what happened. She now knows that something in that room caused all of this to happen to Ben. We are given the history of the house as this. It was built by a wealthy family that consists of a mother, a father, and their son and daughter. One night, during a party, the parents, along with the guests, decided to go and find the children. It was kind of a game, and they were having fun until they actually found the children. They were up in the attic where Papa Justify and Mama Cecile were doing a ritual with them. Justify and Cecile were servants, but it seems iffy if they had much choice in the matter. But uh, they were promptly lynched. The siblings lived in the house for the rest of their lives, allegedly haunted by the ghost of the house. They sold the house to Violet and her husband, and that leads us to now.
Caroline doesn't believe in hoodoo, but she doesn't really need to. She knows that Ben believes in voodoo, so she decides to use voodoo to try and fix his problem. Basically, if he thinks it's something that's affecting him, but it's just a mental block, if she uses that same religion that caused that mental block, she might be able to break him out of it.
Caroline visits a laundromat where she hears a recording of Papa Justify being played. The woman offers her a ritual that may help Ben get some clarity from the spell. When Caroline performs the ritual, Ben can speak to her. He asks her for help for escaping from the house. The moment of success starts to convince Caroline that there might be something in this, and that using hoodoo, even as a non believer in theory, will work. It's like the power of suggestion. She brings Luke into the situation, considering him the only other person that she can turn to. She had been talking to Jill, but Jill does not want her to mess with this any further, and it turns out that Violet had contacted him earlier and expressed concern about Caroline. They are both concerned about her. Caroline is suspicious of Violet, something that only intensifies when they're headed back to the house and stop by a gas station. She follows Papa Justify's voice once again and finds a blind woman inside. She helps connect the dots, saying that the spell is being done to take the years of someone else's life to add onto their own.
Caroline prepares for her confrontation with Violet that night, intending to drug her during their dinner. Initially, everything is going according to plan. Tense dinner ends with Violet passing out. Caroline takes a spell sheet that is gripped in her hand. It looks like it's one for protection, so she's grabbing it and running.
She gets Ben out of the main house and stows him away in the shed, believing it to be safe from Violet until she can get Luke to the house and the two of them out of there. With Ben safe for the time being, Caroline paddles to safety and then shows up at Luke's house. At first, Luke seems supportive in helping Caroline, but she discovers disturbing evidence that makes her question her entire time at the house. She finds photos of herself and her friends looking as though they were being taken before she had been officially hired. This is much deeper than it had originally seemed. When he casually takes a call from Violet, Caroline realizes that this must be something that they have orchestrated. She suspects that Violet is teaching him how to be a hoodoo practitioner as long as she helps him by completing this ritual. Despite being afraid, Caroline tries to stand up to him, but she ends up being choked out and forced back to the house. Caroline is left in the hallway after the two make it clear that they are, in fact, working together. She knows that she is going to die and just asks that she has her father's photo with her when she passes.
Luke agrees to the suggestion, unaware that Caroline has set a trap. She is using brick dust, which is a dust that is put on like the entrance to a door, and if someone intends harm on the person that put down the dust and is inside the room, then they cannot pass the dust. Luke is unable to enter her room, fully showing that he intends to harm her.
Caroline manages to reach her phone and calls the police, urging them to come to the house immediately. She also calls Jill to apologize for not having listened to her before and tell her that she was right. She retreats to the attic to set up what she believes to be the protective spell. When Violet enters the room, she reveals that the spell does nothing but to make sure that Caroline can't escape it, and since she believed in hoodoo now, it's going to affect her. On the night of the party long ago, Mama Cecile and Papa Justify had formed a ritual to transfer their souls into the body of the children. It was their way of continuing to live, adding the other person's years to their own in a way. Years later, they transferred from the siblings to Violet and Ben. Papa Justify had transferred his soul to Luke, leaving Mama Cecile inside of Violet's body. Though she isn't thrilled about being a white woman again, she accepts that it is necessary for their survival for the time being.
Violet pushes the mirror forward, revealing the image of Mama Cecile inside of the mirror. The mirror is shattered against Caroline completing the ritual. Basically, Mama Cecile is now in Caroline's body, and Caroline is now in Violet's body. Caroline is then given the same medication that Ben had been given, pretty much locking her inside of Violet.
The next morning, both Violet and Ben, who are actually Caroline and Luke, are taken away to a long term care facility. They are being taken by ambulance, both of them looking at each other in horror. They both know what happened and they can't believe what has happened to them. They were both deceived by some true con artists. For reasons I will never understand, Cecile and Justify are both attached to the house. It's a curious thing because the house isn't truly that remarkable, like, especially for the modern world. But I guess if there's a place you're willing to keep living in for that long, then go for it. That being said, when Cecile sees Jill, she seems immediately interested in a new host. This suggests that all the effort taken into securing her current body doesn't really matter. It's a chilling revelation considering everything Caroline had gone through.
Overall, this movie is pretty effective. While its portrayal of hoodoo is far from reality, it's a stupid 2004 movie. It's not the worst of the worst. The genre relies on oversimplification and misrepresentation. And like every religion does have its bad actors, so whatever.
That being said, the performances of the older actors deserve recognition. They approached the roles with much more commitment and respect that elevated the material. The performances brought depth to a story that might have otherwise felt thin. That made the film at least a bit more engaging to watch. While the movie doesn't contain many truly terrifying moments, it does succeed in creating an eerie atmosphere, especially in the voice acting recordings of Papa Justify. It was a good reminder of how deep the hoodoo religion goes in that location and how many people might be involved in this. The twist at the end deserves a bit of credit. I can promise that I didn't see that one coming. Something was obviously off with Ben's story, but you definitely weren't expecting that one. I was all on board with the ghost for most of the movie. And although Caroline isn't the strongest character in terms of acting, she's still an interesting protagonist. Her motivations make a lot of sense, even if they can be frustrating.
So much for watching. My name has been Amanda. Please subscribe. I would survive this because I'm not a nurse, and I have no intention of being one.